Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mark Schumacher. I'm the CEO of the Home Furnishings Association, and this is one of our weekly webinars. And I have to tell you, this is one that I've really looked forward to because what we do every year at HFA is we have a Retailer of the Year competition. We accept nominations from people throughout the industry for different categories, large retailer, smaller retailer, emerging star, trailblazer, et cetera. And once we get these nominations, each person nominated has to create a pretty heavy duty application. They got to prove why they got their nomination. And you hear everybody chuckling about this because they know it was a lot of work. And then it goes before a group of judges who are some industry notables who then make the selections. So this is not a popularity contest. This is about earning it. In particular, when we talk about 2020, these are our two Retailer of the Year companies in a pandemic year, which makes me just really, first of all, thrilled that they came through this and got this recognition. But also today we're going to do is we're going to learn a lot about their approach to business and to the things that really made them Retailer of the Year. So a couple of things I want to mention before we introduce everybody is that you can ask questions. We know that a lot of you have in advance, but you'll see there's a chat section on the right side of your screen. You can send us questions. We'll do our best to get to those. Also, this is recorded. So make sure that if you're hearing something that you like, just know that this will be on myhfa.org. We have a library of fantastic webinars full of terrific information, and please share it and make sure that you do that. So without further ado, I want to introduce our Retailers of the Year. Interestingly enough, the state of Pennsylvania coming in big because both of them are in the state of Pennsylvania. So I guess the other 49 just didn't measure up this year. But in the category of 50 employees or larger, the Retailer of the Year this year was Interiors Home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We're joined by Todd Lehman, who is the brains behind that operation. I think I'll say that, Todd. We won't bring anybody on for a counterpoint, so that'll work out. And then for 50 and below, it's PerLora Furniture you're in the Pittsburgh area, correct? Am I right? Yeah. Want to make sure. We've got to make sure the brain's going. And Per is Perry and Lora is Lora Sigesmund. So they did that. I always thought when I first saw your name, the PerLora, I thought everything was PerLora. And she's not denying that, so I guess it is Perry. I guess, okay, we're just going to go there. First of all, there's going to be a lot more that we're going to be putting out to congratulate both of you and memorialize that through the year. But I just want to say on behalf of the entire Home Furnishings Association, we congratulate you. We're proud to recognize you. And I would just say that previous winners have really fill out a who's who in this industry. You join a very elite group of retailers, and they just bang the drum even after the year of their celebration. So please, you can wear that as long as you wish. But thank you for joining us. And I'm just going to kind of dig right in because we have a ton of questions. Our attending retailers are going to want to pick your brains, and so I'm going to try to lead us through that. But Todd, I want to start with you. First of all, what was your thought when you first heard that this designation, this honor was gonna come your way, knowing that it comes from others in the industry? I just like to get an initial reaction to how this felt to you.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to Perry and Lora, of course, on their award, and thank you, Mark, and to everyone from the HFA. Of course, we hold you in such high esteem. And little did I ever think I was going to be one of the ones on one of these webinars that we've tapped into so many times, particularly since the pandemic. But in terms of my first reaction was I am so happy for our team because we're not unlike any other organization who has been stretched to the max, and their team members have really had to pull through. And I think it is particularly notable for our team to have received such recognition for the work that they've done in the pandemic year. So my first reaction was, I can't wait to tell the team.
That's awesome. And and this is it is a little bit extra special considering this year. And there's nobody that's listening to this that doesn't appreciate their team more than ever. based upon this past year. So that's good to hear. Perry and Lora, and I'll let you each both jump in. What was the feeling when you got the word?
First of all, when we did, okay, this is going to be typical here.
I love it. I love it. Please.
When we did the application, I want to also, well, first of all, we want to thank you because we're so honored. But even doing the application, which really was thought-provoking, you know, it really makes you get your ducks in a row and think about the future and the past and why 2020 was so different. And I appreciated that exercise in doing it. And I know some of the people who have won this award before us, and I hold them in high esteem as well. So we were really honored when we got the call, and really excited also for our team and to share it. And we kind of kept it quiet, and we had a little social distancing party in one of our stores. We didn't tell them why. And everybody got a little bottle of champagne and a little charcuterie in a box so they could take it home and eat it, and a gift card. And it was very exciting.
Todd's team right now is going, champagne?
Well, actually, champagne was a common theme for us too. You know, whenever you want to celebrate, what better way to do it? So we bought bottles of champagne as well. So
good.
I love that. Hey, Perry, the one thing that Lora said that's interesting, and I've heard this from past nominees as well, is that, you know, we give a pretty voluminous nominee application. And it talks about everything from culture and social responsibility and aspects of running your business. And to Lora's point, it forces you as a nominee to really step back and look at things, which you don't always get to do. So did you also feel a piece of that as well?
Definitely. I mean, to just go back and see where you want to, you know, you're shut down for 2 months. So it's almost like it's a new business plan, more or less, that you have to think differently. To operate now with COVID, we have to put new programs in place, et cetera. So it was grueling. I mean, you look at being closed for 2 months, and we were working from more hours than being open to figure out where we're going to go with our business. And we pulled through, you know, so you know, we're very excited that we're still in business.
There you go. I want to just start the conversation off by asking, since obviously you guys were recognized during this pandemic year. Todd, let me start with you. Give us, for the other retailers listening to this, what were a couple of the key things that you felt were the difference makers for Interiors Home to come out of this year healthy? What were those things that you concentrated on that you felt were the difference makers?
Well, I think, first of all, let me just say that, you know, we have 111 employees. We started at 85 employees prior to COVID, and then reopened with 84. So we were very fortunate that we had all but one individual come back to our team. But you're stretched to do so many different things, and I have a team of people that I could assign a lot of those things to. I am particularly cognizant of what small retailers, small organizations have to go through. I mean, how do you develop all your COVID protocols at the same time try to put together a PPP plan? You know, you literally have to be experts at everything. And so we were fortunate that our leadership team was kept intact throughout the whole period. And so critical for us was to keep our leadership team together and fully employed throughout the whole pandemic. We did lay off all but 9 employees. So first thing was core team, because when you shut all your buildings down and you start to ask yourself the question, well, what is my business? My business is, you know, it's the people. It's all of us in a room. So first of all, keeping the team together was very critical. Secondly, of course, was communication and how we were going to connect with each other. And Zoom calling came at just the right time, because honestly, I don't know, we were already using some of the other platforms, but Zoom came to the forefront quickly and became an easy tool for us to use to stay connected and to communicate with each other. So communication was absolutely critical, and we communicated frequently with our team. I had regular memos. They were happening daily early on, and then they became weekly, and then they became monthly. So communication was absolutely critical for us. And then I guess another just quick thing was after we had some great advice from our accountant early on. And if you remember when we first shut down, we thought, oh, we're going to be down for 2 weeks and we'll be reopening
That would be
again.
fine.
That would be good. Our accountant said to us, you should plan on being closed for 6 months. So take a look at your cash and start thinking about a 6-month window. And so the first thing we did was we looked at cash and determined how long do we think we can hang in there with zero revenue and the expense structure that we had.
Yeah, cash flow is something that we've paid a lot of attention to. All of us have, HFA as well. It just, yeah, we had little or no choice in that. Lora, what would you say for you all was the couple of things that have been the biggest takeaways that really helped you get through the tough times of 2020?
I think going back to the size of the business, we furloughed all of our employees except obviously Perry and I. So we couldn't communicate with them. So it was left to Perry and I to keep communicating with customers, communicating with potential customers. And we did that through Podium on our website. We did videos, we did e-blasts, and we called customers to assure them, your furniture's in. We can't deliver it to you, but the minute we can, we will, and we're still here and we're going to be here. And then I think when we opened very gingerly, so we had appointments. People were in the store. We had teams of 2 people in terms of our designers. So the same 2 people worked together on the same days, and it was like an every other day schedule, but we were still open 7 days a week. Everybody pulled through. Everybody was respectful. We respected what the customers wanted. We initiated a program, maybe I should let Perry talk about it, our loaner program, which I think has really helped us. And we also, when we were closed, we were very cognizant of the restaurants and the other businesses around us that were struggling as well. And we did a program that if you purchase something during closeout time, when we were closed, you could get a gift certificate to a restaurant. So we were trying to sort of be good neighbors, even when we couldn't have our doors open.
And that's a piece of why you were judged a retailer of the year. So I think I'm feeling one of the first new takeaways of this meeting coming up. Perry, talk about what this loaner program was. Talk about that.
Well, the loaner program, we didn't have enough sofas. We always have like 4 or 5 sofas in the warehouse to lend out. We were finding that with delays in deliveries, people were, they needed something to sit on. So we ended up ordering more sofas that were in stock from some of the manufacturers. So they're in and out of the homes. Even a couple dining tables that we purchased for loaners. I mean, this is what you have to do in order to save a sale. The other thing I wanted to mention also is that, Lora was really good at this, and both of us together were listening to a lot of webinars, and I think that helped us tremendously in looking forward to opening the doors and different people's, their perspectives and where we're going with our industry and how we're going to survive. The other benefit is that we belong to Contemporary Design Group, and we've belonged over 15, 20 years.
Oh, no. It's like 25 years.
Is it 25? Oh,
yeah.
And so 27 stores connecting practically every day with PPP and everything else, how to connect with customers, and just what a great organization that helped us tremendously through this whole process.
Well, and you know, for us, we have, you know, just under 1,500 members, and you know, that's the playbook that we took as well. That's why you guys are here today. You know, we can bring in experts, there's no doubt about it, but you're in the trenches, you've experienced it, and you know, 100 years ago, this association was founded based upon retailers wanting that community. That's one of our, still to this day, we have the same 4 pillars we did back then, but community, and this is what that's all about. So sharing, that's great. I love the loaner program. Interestingly enough, a lot of people putting questions in for us as they were signing up for this webinar today. I want to talk a little bit about things like that, innovations when it came to customer engagement during this process. Todd, what are some things that you guys did, innovatively speaking, in customer engagement when the playing field was completely changed?
Yeah, I'd like to just tap in for just a second on the comment that Lora made too, and that is the connectivity with the local community. And I think, you know, we've always talked about local and American made and things like that. And there's one thing that certainly happened in the community in general is more of a sense of the responsibility that businesses have for our local community. And so in that regard, as it relates really to customer engagement, we do believe that our customers are looking to us to be doing that. And, you know, we've always had a sense of responsibility in that regard, but in particular, I think Lora mentioned about restaurants as well, and how more important it was that we understand there's many businesses that were, even when we reopened, we're still struggling. And so what could we do to be supportive of those folks? But to your question in terms of employee engagement, I will go back again to communication and opening up airwaves for them to speak to us. When I think about in our particular situation, there was a fairly major retailer that was going out of business. And so that certainly caught a lot of the local airwaves. And I think it created, you know, some uncertainty for our customers to see that a major retailer was going out of business. You know, consumers get very nervous very quickly, especially because we do quite a bit of custom order business. We had a lot of open orders. So our first effort really was to be communicating to our customers who had orders with us that were in the pipelines to ensure that they understood that we were in business, we were financially healthy, we're going to be following up on their orders and keeping them posted with regular communication. Our website became very, very critical because consumers are, you know, going to the website first and want to see. So we were constantly updating our website with information about where their orders might be. And of course, the last thing was being able to connect our consumers with our design and sales associates. They were now not working in the store, but they had a lot of questions. So it forced us in that regard to look at new ways of how our customers can communicate with us. I mean, I remember thinking something as simple as, how are we going to answer the phones when people are calling in? And how can we, you know, can we forward those calls, you know, to the proper people? And I remember thinking and saying to my team, our customers, the face of our business right now is our telephone, people answering the phone call. They can get online, they can see our website, but when they call in, we need to be there answering the phone and showing them that we're in business and there's no changes there.
It's funny that when you talk about that, because, you know, let's just say 2 years ago, you know, the phone part of it was kind of, you know, that was never talked about because it's like, no, it's got to be all this higher tech approach and things of that sort. And then this comes along, and one of our early webinars was with Keith Koenig of City Furniture, who said they took their best salespeople and put them on the phones and put all that attention on it. Now, the funny part about that is what you just talked about, none of that would have been considered innovative, but during the pandemic, it was innovative in that I'm hearing both of you say it really was and has been back to basics to really understand that. So let me just stay with this for one more moment and ask you, and Laura, I'll start with you. So this is not about just going back and to the way things were. So are these things that you talked about, these changes, are they permanent now? Do you suggest other retailers stick with these things? These are still good basic tenets of customer engagement.
Well, the one thing we didn't talk about is we talked about us in Zoom, but we now can connect with our customers via Zoom too. So instead of making a house call, if you're the designer, you can sit on a computer screen and see the customer's home, which is a really wonderful tool that I think will stay. I think that a lot of the things, the basic, I think that 2020 was a reset. It kind of made us take a step back and say, okay, what's important? How do we continue to grow? How do we innovate? And the things that we took for granted, like who's answering the telephone, became important again. And so I think they are still going to be important, and we're going to grow with other things that we might not be thinking about today. Like Zoom will lead to something else. And I think we have to constantly be open to change and be willing to change.
So Todd, let me ask you this, because Laura just said a word that's in a bunch of the questions about growth. So what's your growth strategy right now? What does that look like at this stage of the COVID crisis and moving forward?
Well, I think we're all evaluating, is the bubble going to burst and are things going to come crashing down, or is the growth that we're experiencing going to soften or slow? So I would say in the first regard is really looking to the resources that you all at HFA are providing us, some expertise in the folks that you have to come in and help educate us in that regard in terms of trends. I really rely on the resources that you guys can help bring to the table. I mean, I will never forget during the close down when Jerry Epperson said, you all need to start ordering products now and getting your products in the pipeline. And I'll never forget that, because I thought, all right, I know he's a smart guy, but I can't even believe that we're even thinking that way. Because as we were evaluating when we came out of the pandemic, we were guessing we'd have 30% of the traffic or a business we would have had normally. We just never expected it. So point being, I'm listening to you experts and the trends that you're seeing. I concur. I think housing is going to continue to be strong. To Laura's point, there's a reset. There's a reset of attitude of the importance of home and the significance and the worthwhile of investing in your home. I think you know, the millennial generation, of whom I have several that are here with me, are looking at expanding, moving out of the metropolitan areas, and the importance of that type of living. So in terms of our growth strategies, we're really feel that the growth is going to continue, and we would like to take advantage by moving into some other contiguous markets as quickly as we can.
And Perry, I want to ask you this question, because playing off what Todd just said, so what I'm hearing is that in this reset, as Laura called it, it's just really about your growth strategy is based on just paying attention and really, you know, being a sponge and understanding the marketplace and everything else on a daily basis. Is that fair?
It's fair. You got to realize this is the first time I've owned and operated a furniture store for over 40 years. And this is the first time that with the economy the way it is right now and unemployment and everything, this is the first time in our industry that we are booming, you know, with this type of environment. And we just have to roll with it. And like you mentioned, as far as bringing in more merchandise, and this is the advice, and this is the same on our end. I mean, we're having containers come in from Italy, and we're, you know, bringing in much more inventory. I think that's the direction right now. And the other thing also is customers want instant gratification. I mean, you know, right now in the States, we're 4 or 5 months out for upholstery. People are waiting, and that's why we talked about all the loaner sofas and things that we're doing to kind of calm that storm. But I just think this is good times for us, sad for others, and we have to realize that. But you know,
Yeah. Never been attention to home like there is right now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know,
there's no doubt about it. And a lot of people are not going to go back to their offices.
Mhm.
So they're just going to set up their offices in their home, and that office business also is another area that we need to step up to the plate and stock, and we're stocking more office chairs now than ever. So
There you go.
The other thing I want to say too is that on the vendor side, we're looking at our vendor partners and saying, you know, are these the people we want to go forward with? And are we important enough to them? And, you know, the partnerships, I think, between all of the resources that we have become even more important.
And you have to be consistent. I mean, all these things that you guys are saying, the thread through this thing is that no longer can you just set it and forget it. You need to stay on all these things. Just really quickly, Todd, are you guys fully transactional online on your website?
Very, to a minimal degree. We show a lot of product, but we're currently not having any transactions online.
Okay. And what about
amazing
thing?
We do not, but that's the next step. We definitely think that that's the direction, and we're not going to go about it across the board on our website, but we're going to do some testing in the beginning.
Gotcha. But I love the way that you're involving designers remotely, which is great. Okay, so here's one of the first loaded questions I'm going to ask you that I'm going to blame on the audience. So let's see, Todd, I'll start with you.
Oh boy.
So how are you managing this is the exact question. How is everyone managing the onslaught of price increases? Todd, I'll let you start that one because those are, I have conversations with retailers on a daily basis, and that is the top 1 or 2 things that comes up with everybody.
Well, the first answer is absolutely have to be committed to changing our prices on our floors. And initially, it's easy to say, okay, well, we'll get it next month or 2 months from now. You can't do that anymore. We've got to dedicate a team of people to getting it done, to getting our floor tagging up to speed as quickly as we possibly can.
Okay, so you're making adjustments as you go. You have to, because you can't absorb all of it. Is that fair?
Absolutely, yeah. We are very, very committed. And you know, we might have something on the floor, and if you go to special order it in the same fabric or same grade, it's very hard to explain to a consumer, well, why is this $100 more than the one that's on the floor? Blah blah blah. It just goes a whole lot better if we can keep our floor samples and products up to date.
Laura, what about y'all?
So being smaller, I hear a lot of complaining that, oh my God, this one's having a price increase and we have to retag the floor. If they're giving us enough notice, we'll look at the silver lining and say, okay, this gives us an opportunity to try to close some sales before the price increase. But you have to do, as Todd said, you have to be on top of it and make sure you communicate to everybody that there has been a price change so that they are looking at the correct price list when they're pricing our special orders.
And then evaluate whether
I'm sorry, go ahead, Perry.
Well, evaluate whether you should still keep it on the floor also is important.
Another Jerry Epperson quote, by the way, was he also said that, you know, why aren't we charging more? He did, you know, he was very honest about that, which I think is interesting. By the way, we're almost halfway through, if you can believe it. I want to just remind people that have just joined us. We have the pleasure today of talking to the 2020 Home Furnishings Association Retailers of the Year in the large store category. It's Interiors Home. Lancaster, PA, and Todd Lehman's here, and also Perry and Lora Sigmundson from PerLora Furniture in Pittsburgh are here as well, waving the Pennsylvania banner strongly today here during the HFA webinar. Let me move. I want to make sure we get as many questions as we can. So we kind of put these together in some subject matters here. A lot of folks want to know, and I'll start with Perry. I'll start with you first on this go around. So
Okay.
right now, what are you doing to market? You know, where are you spending money? Where are you focusing? What are the things that right now are working well for you guys when it comes to your marketing?
Well, we've tripled our budget as far as digital advertising. Cut back in TV, the traditional advertising, and so digital, site remarketing, display ads, AdWords. I think the most important thing for any of us in this industry right now is our website. People are going to go to your website before they even walk in the store. So we look at our website pretty much on a daily basis, making sure the homepage is pristine. We actually have our Home Furnishings Award on the homepage.
Good for you.
The Retailer of the Year on the homepage. That's up, and so I would say that digital is the key right now.
Gotcha.
That's the bottom line.
Todd, what about y'all?
Well, certainly wouldn't disagree that the importance of website. Again, when we were closed, our phones and our website, that's who we were. That was our business. So it's extremely important that a lot of those things we were working on, we started to advance. But I'll tell you, in terms of marketing, and this would go back to how do we feel we were able to get through the COVID, rather than pull back our marketing, we stayed the course. We kept the same investment, and we do a significant amount of television. We're fortunate that we're in a market that we can buy television, and that it's a strong player for us. So during the pandemic, one of the comments we got from our media buyer was that the amount of exposure we're getting for every dollar of television is probably 5 to 6 times what it might normally be, because everybody was at home. And so why not take advantage of that? And so we were pretty much all in. But the other thing that we did that we thought was very critical was our messaging. We are family owned and we're locally grown. And so we really, we developed a whole new campaign with that theme, family owned, locally grown. And it spoke of the history of our company, and the fact that what our values are, what our culture is. And again, in light of the fact that there are other stores in our market that were going out of business, we wanted to be sending out the right message. We're here, we're committed to the local community, and we're healthy, and we're going to be strong going forward. So marketing.
And I want to point out that connection to community and what you're talking about, which has clearly been a part of the culture of both of your companies, was one of the tenets of receiving the honors of Retailer of the Year. So this is something to really hang on. And I thought it was interesting because, you know, there was a retailer, and I can't remember who it was because we've talked to so many, but early on in the pandemic said, you know, they were reaping the benefits of what they had planted when it came to their community image and all those things. You can't just, you know, start that on a dime. That's got to be created over time. And so they were talking about the importance of continuing to always build that and how important that was. Lora, let me ask you, of the different digital channels, things like you're using, where are you finding the most, this is something everybody's most interested in too, where are you finding the most success? You know, where are you seeing maybe the larger flow of potential customers coming in? Oops, and you're muted.
You're muted.
Can you unmute? Oops, she blipped out on us for a second and then you back? Well, I'll tell you what, Perry, I'm gonna let you take that question.
Come over here, Lo.
Go ahead, Perry, take that question. What have you seen has been the most successful channel?
Well, I'll tell you that the most successful channel is the repeat customer. That's what we've experienced. When we reopened, we sent out a mailer that we're open again. We had signs on the front windows, et cetera. So I'd say that between the website, we really cut back in advertising. Todd, like you kept it going on TV, et cetera. We cut our advertising in half when we closed, when we were shut down for 2 months. But I cannot believe the amount of repeat customers and large sales. The traffic is not amazing in our stores, obviously this time, but the repeat customers was what really has been phenomenal for us the past good few months.
I would also like to interject that Perry, when we were closed, we would go into the stores and do videos of product just to stay in the forefront of people's mind. I have to say, we just talked about it this morning. We kind of got off the video bandwagon, but videos are really important, and I think it shows personality of the store, the people doing it. It shows the product. And I think that's another channel that's important that we should make sure we don't forget about.
And all the podium reviews ended up on my, computer. So I would, while we're closed and even while we're open now, they all feed through Lora.
You mean podium questions.
Yeah, podium questions.
Okay.
Sorry, and they feed through us. When we were closed, the phone connected to my cell phone. So my cell phone was ringing off the hook all the time. I didn't mind that, and they loved hearing from the owner. So that's the perk of being.
Is that going to change, or would you suggest you're going to continue to do that as a
No, not with the cell phone's off now. I mean, it doesn't connect any longer. But when
we'll be giving Perry's number out at the end of this broadcast. We'll do that. No, we won't. And by the way, I just want to point out to people watching this that we had Lora and Perry in separate rooms initially for the audio portion of this. There's no rift. They're head over heels in love. We've not had an intervention and brought them back together during this, but just wanted people to understand. Let me ask you this, and Todd, I want to ask you this question. So, in both cases here, you had to let people go for a period of time, and that's tough. And I know when you said you came back, you had 84 to the 85, but still, talk a little bit about that. Has there been any repercussions from that? A lot of people asking about how you. That you continue to recruit people, or did you lose people? Did it hurt, bringing people back? Are you having to concentrate more on making them feel reconnected to the business? How have you managed the people part of this process since the pandemic started to today?
Yeah, great question. Just a quick response on your prior question. We've gotten tremendous feedback and push from Facebook, by the way. So just to interject that in terms of marketing and social messaging.
Appreciate that.
When we closed down, it was so important that we communicated and stayed in touch with our team members. Most importantly is we tried to provide resources for them, because many of them, probably 99% of them, were having to do things they've never had to do before. First of all was the government stimulus. How could they find out where the government stimulus, when were they going to get it, how much would they get? So one of our team members specifically was in charge of providing those kinds of resources to our team. So it started with that. Then it was unemployment. I would guess to say there was 99% had never had to file for unemployment. So we wanted to provide those resources to them and have one person that everybody could call in and get information, and that person could get as smart as possible to provide that information and help them guide through. So it was getting unemployment, when would they get their first checks, and then how long would it last? How do they apply on the websites and things like that?
I love that response, because the sort of the read between the lines there is you took time to make sure you were caring for your team. By giving them funneling them into one particular area of information, So that had to give you some really great response from them, the way they came back, feeling like you cared in the midst of this whole thing. That's pretty awesome. So Perry and Laura, what about the two of you? I know you said you had to furlough everybody, but the two of you, what was that like to bring them back? What were some of the things that you did, and how are you managing it now, making them feel more connected to what's going on?
Well, one thing also, we did very similar to what Todd did when we were closed, making sure they had the resources. We even had one employee who messed up. He's from, where is he from?
Congo.
The Congo. And he really didn't know how to navigate the system. And so he must have filled out his unemployment incorrectly, and he really didn't have any money. So Perry drove to his house and gave him some money and a gift card to a food, one of the grocery stores. So we cared about them in that way. We also, while we were not together, we tried to stay connected by doing Zoom calls. We had Zoom happy hours so that everybody could see each other and connect and make sure that everyone was okay. And they connected with one another even without us. I mean, 2 of our employees have been with us ever since we opened. So it is more like a family than,
But everyone came back to work, which we're thrilled with that.
I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to embarrass you by saying, look, if you're the type of a business owner who's going to drive to someone's house who's having difficulty getting his unemployment, and you're going to offset that a little bit and giving him something to survive on, let me tell you something. If that's not an employee for life, I don't know who is. So that's just an extraordinary story. And you might sit there and think, oh, this is just a small thing to do. Wow, that's like ridiculously impressive that you guys would do something along those lines. Are there any, Todd, are there any hangovers when it comes to what these employees have been through? Do you feel like now, even though business has been good, people are back, is there still an uncertainty there? Is that still that COVID cloud that you're still having to deal with? Are you managing that, or is that just something that it's just keep it as is, day-to-day business?
The COVID cloud that we live with today is who is out sick, and what kind of notices did we have to provide to our employees about someone in their workplace who they may have been exposed to or not exposed to. Initially, there was a great fear of that for all of our team members who wanted to come back to work. Was our workplace safe? I think we've really transcended through most of that because of the outstanding protocols that we put in place and continue to have strictly in place. From day number 1, I took a very strong position that the safety of our team is the number 1 most important thing for us, and then the safety of our customers is second, as we would enter into their homes. So I think we had excellent protocols that were in place, and today it's more of almost like living with the implications of COVID in the workplace each and every day or each and every week. And somebody's tomorrow could go out and 3 other people could have to be taken out at the same time. How are we going to deal with that? Who's going to fill in and pick up where those people had to be laid off and left go? But particularly on the delivery side, you have 15 deliveries in a day, and your drivers come in the morning and you find out, guess what? So and so is not feeling well today, and the person he was with yesterday now has to go home too.
Right.
So in terms of the hangover, that's the kind of hangover we have.
Still managing the day-to-day on the disease, on the COVID, on the virus. Yeah, go ahead, Perry.
Well, we had one store, PerLora, on the south side that one of the designers was exposed to COVID. So we had to shut down. We didn't shut the store down, but we had to bring everyone over from the leather store and alternate daily. It was horrible for like almost 2 weeks.
No, a week.
Week or so. Okay. That we had to deal with that.
The other thing this is typical.
She's good with the numbers.
This is the typical thing. The other thing, and I don't know if you experienced this, Todd, was the level of concern when we first opened up that each designer had. Some were really neurotic, like, oh my God, don't touch me, spray. And some were less neurotic. I don't know if those are the right words, but trying to manage it so that everybody's needs felt like they were being taken care of was a little daunting.
It was.
Sometimes, so that you had to be respectful of everybody and figure out a way to answer, you know, keep the, we had the doors locked.
Yeah,
Our doors were locked. You either had to have an appointment, or if you didn't have an appointment, you
Right.
called, and we, if there weren't that many people in our store, we would let you in. And it was also the fear of the unknown, because we still didn't know that much about COVID, and we still didn't know what, you know, does it live on the furniture? Do we have, you know?
Right. What do we need to do? Todd, let me ask you, there's a number of questions that have come in about staff recruitment, and I don't know if that's if it's an issue for you guys, if you're not hiring or if you've lost people. Have you had to deal with staff recruiting, and if so, has that changed at all based upon COVID?
Staff recruitment is absolutely a major challenge for us.
Okay.
I mentioned on a number of occasions a major retailer in the market that closed, that it became a great opportunity for us because there were many stores, many employees that were recently let go. And we were fortunate enough to bring some of them on our team. And as it turns out, one person brought another person because they could speak to the culture of our company. And fortunately, our cultures were in alignment. And we do have a recruitment bonus that we have for all of our team members. But I think, you know, what's stronger than anything is if the kind of company that you want to work at with a strong culture, strong values, you're happy to share that with your friends who are looking for a similar type of work environment. And just one thing I would say, you know, in terms of the hangover thing, one of the most positive things coming out of the COVID situation for us was seeing how our team members were stepping up to help each other. And it was truly incredible. Stories like Perry's, where we had individuals taking meals, helping out financially, giving up vacation time. We have a vacation sharing policy program. You don't want to use your vacation, you want to give it to somebody who needs it more. We have a great program. But the most positive thing about COVID was the amount of care and concern that we saw with our team members taking care of each other.
And we also paid for their health insurance while we were closed, so just to make sure that we're no issue.
Even though they were
Furloughed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, and have you had to have any recruiting as well, Laura? Have you guys had to recruit any new talent in the last few months?
It's been more in our warehouse that we've had to recruit for drivers, et cetera. And in August, when we were faced with this, people wouldn't show up for their interviews. I mean, we couldn't find anybody. It was terrible because of the extra money in the paychecks. They could make more money staying at home than they would have working. And that was a major problem. And then just recently, we looked to increase the number of people in our warehouse, and there was a plethora of people who wanted a job. It was very interesting, and people showed up for their interviews.
A little follow-up question here, Todd. Are you guys having to pay more now when you hire somebody based upon what's happened, or are you able to keep your structures the way they were?
No, absolutely. We've had to pay very close attention to all of our pay scales, and to Laura's point, particularly as it related to our operations side in our warehousing delivery teams. There's very high demand for those folks out in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
We've frankly have always placed a high priority on our delivery teams because they are the last folks that see our customers. And so we are happy to pay the wages we need to pay to get the high quality people that we're looking for. But there has absolutely been an escalation on our part. The churning, as Laura pointed out, is so great to get people to apply, to get them to call, to get them to show up for an interview, to get a person that will pass all of our pre-employment testing. We just simply have to keep more. It becomes a bit of a numbers game that we just have to keep more and more people in the pipeline, dedicate our resources towards the whole interviewing process, which has got to be so much more difficult for the smaller businesses because you just have to get so many people and dedicate so much time to it.
Well, Perry and Laura, are you guys having to pay more now too? I mean, you talked about some challenges in certain parts of the business. Are you having to pay more based upon the COVID situation?
I think well, again, the only people we've hired are warehouse since COVID. So, you know, everybody's bumped up their pay a bit anyhow, but I wouldn't say that we're paying a lot more.
But having to adjust. I mean, a lot of our retailers are kind of struggling with that part of it, no doubt about it. I want to get one more set of questions in, and then I've got some final things I wanted to ask you guys. But there's also a question here, and since you both have clearly have really done some great work in connecting with customers. Todd, how are you guys? Is there any secret sauce to how you are dealing with the delays? Product delays and things of that sort with customers, because if we can bottle that, we'll sell that and we'll all make a lot of money. But what are your thoughts on that?
I pretty much anticipated that this question would come up. I guess one of our sayings has become bad news doesn't get any worse. Bad news only gets worse the longer you wait to convey it, and that's sort of been our mantra. Unfortunately, we've had to deliver a lot of bad news and continue to as the struggles continue. You know, customers call and question your own reputation and your own integrity when the news that you give them continues to change. So the best we can do is continue to communicate and try to stay in touch with our customers every 2 weeks, if at all possible. It is a team effort, though. We need our associates, our designers and sales associates, to be taking the lead. They're the ones who have the relationships with our customers, so we expect them to know what level of communication is needed and to stay on top of that as much as we possibly can. So it's all about communication. We've had to give back to our customers in terms of excessive delays. Free delivery services have been something that we've ended up giving quite a bit, and that seems to help. But it's a struggle.
Perry and
I
Laura,
think to dovetail, sorry.
No, go.
To dovetail on that, our designers are also involved in it, and keeping their morale up and their attitude in the right place also is a bit of a challenge when it seems it happens all in one day. They have to call 5 customers in one day and say, I know I told you it was coming, you know, February 1st, but now it's coming March 1st. So I think trying to find a way to keep everybody on board and know that this is a fact of life right now. And I feel very badly for the customer service reps and all these manufacturers, because they have to be the ones on the front line having to deal with us retailers and trying to just, you know, you can only be you're honest. You know, I can't do anything else, but I will keep you as informed as I am informed.
We take responsibility is what we say. I mean, we don't have control of the situation, but it's PerLora. It's our response. We take all the responsibility.
Your name's on it. I mean, your name's on the transaction. You don't have much choice, right? You can't kick the can any further.
Just
if you tell them that, it softens it a little bit. So
yeah, just one quick technique that I've heard from a number of retailers when the customer calls to cancel is to tell them, we'd be happy to let you cancel. Why don't we go ahead, before you do so, why don't you call around and do some other shopping and see if you can get what you need or want. We'll keep your order in place. And then if you can't, then you're all set, because we don't want you to lose your space in line. And that is a technique that seems to have worked for many retailers that I've spoken to.
That's terrific. Perry and Laura, let me ask you this. The final question I have. This is kind of your chance to talk to fellow retailers of 50 employees or less. What would you say are the key things for them to remember right now that really will equal success in business today, end of February 2021? What would you say to them?
You can't do things the way you used to do them. You got to keep an open mind. I mean, I'm a big learner. I mean, we listened to an amazing hour-and-a-half webinar this morning about disruption in your industry. So what is the next thing that's going to disrupt our industry, and how do we stay ahead of it? So I think learning is very important. I think trying to find other ways to do things. I mean, we talked about the telephone. Who would have thought we would go back to the telephone and having it be so important? But you have to be open, and you have to be open to learning and open to new ideas.
Yes.
And they come from everywhere.
And nonstop. Todd, what would you say briefly in the same respect?
First of all, I think that's a great response. Very well thought. It's, I guess, keep planning, keep planning, involve your team, but be prepared to pivot or change as needed. If we've learned anything through all of this experience, no matter how hard you work on an idea to launch it tomorrow or next week or next month, it may blow up just as quickly. And so you can't take so much ownership for every idea that you have that you're not willing to change. The old pump on the brakes or pivot and move another direction is the life that we're living right now. And so as leaders, we need to set up our teams to continue to plan, but try not to discourage them when you have to make changes and can't go the direction you thought you could.
And let me remind
don't be
everybody
afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. If it doesn't work,
yeah,
try
not the
something
time,
else.
not the time to be timid, as I like to tell
Always
people.
get back up.
I want to remind people that what you just heard came from Interiors Home and PerLora Furniture, the two winners of the Retailer of the Year this year for HFA. There have been some great takeaways. Let's go through the takeaways here briefly, just to remind people some of the things that we learned today. And while some of this may sound like history, these are great pieces to carry forward. PerLora has managed the supply chain disruptions through a furniture loan program, which is unique, providing temporary products. And I think that's something that maybe wouldn't work for everybody, but that may be something that has legs going forward. Who knows? During the shutdowns, Interiors Home communicated with this stability to their customers through regular updates, reaching out to them, keeping them up to date. And that's super important. Also, to adapt to increasing costs, evaluate your product selection, keep your floors tagged accurately, and communicate changes to your teams. Make sure that everybody is playing from the same book. Other takeaways: with consumers being at home full time, Interiors Home's television advertising provided additional exposure, the same ad spend. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you have that access and ability, there's more people at home, more people watching. PerLora also leaned into video content to show the personality of their store, their people, and their products. I think that's terrific. Also, by the way, they of course did a lot with their designers through Zoom, which is something that is probably here to stay as well. And hiring has been positive, but may require an evaluation of wages on the operations side, which has impacted both of these retailers. I want to mention, by the way, all of the winners this year of the 2020 Retailer of the Year awards. Of course, we've today talked to Interiors Home and Todd Lehman and PerLora Furniture Design, but also our emerging star winner was Sydney Harris. She works at Furnitureland South in Jamestown, North Carolina, not far from where I'm coming to you from. And Dave Kohler, chairman of Johnny Janosic in Delaware, is Trailblazer of the Year. He's spent time at Haverty's, at Lazy Boy. He is well known in the industry and well deserving. And the partner of the year for HFA this year was Synchrony Financial, that does a lot of work with a lot of our members. So I want to thank Perry and Lora Sigesmund here. Thank you so much for joining us and just sharing some of what you've done to really be honored with this Retailer of the Year. And we're going to be telling people more about you, and we can't wait to celebrate you even more. And Todd Lehman, same. I want you to tell your teams how much we appreciate them and all the work that you're doing. And I thank you for being here today and for sharing. And this is just one indication of why, if you're not a member of HFA, you need to be. There's a lot of great resources, and we provide you with community resources, education, and advocacy. We're here for you. So, as I like to always say when we wrap up, I hope that the coming weeks for you are healthy ones, not only for yourself, but for your business. We're here to help you along the way and partner any way we can. I'm Mark Schumacher, Chief Executive Officer of HFA. On behalf of everybody, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.